I know what you're thinking. That I'm disgusting. That I crossed a line no mother ever should. But do you know what it feels like to be invisible in your own home? To ache for someone to see you, really see you, and then he does? He wasn't supposed to touch me. But that night, he didn't act like my son's best friend. He acted like a man. And I let him. I never thought I'd be that woman. You know, the kind, middle-aged, bitter, grasping at attention from someone far too young, too off limits. I always judged women like that, until I became one. My name is Danielle. I'm 39 years old. And I feel older than that most days. Mark, my husband, used to be attentive. Loving, even. But something changed. Slowly at first. Less hand-holding. Less laughter. Fewer dinners together. Then entire days without a glance, without a word. We share a bed but not a life. A house, but not a home. I spent years pretending it didn't hurt. Years convincing myself that this was normal. That it was enough. But then Jordan walked back into my kitchen. He was Ethan's best friend, my son's best friend. They'd met during freshman year, and Jordan had practically lived here through high school. I remembered him as awkward, sweet, always with a backpack full of snacks and loud opinions about video games. But when he came through that door for summer break, he wasn't a boy anymore. "Hey, Mrs. D," he said with a grin, setting his duffel down and hugging me like he meant it. And I noticed it right away. The change. He was taller now. Broad shoulders under a black t-shirt that clung a little too well. A little scruff on his jaw. His voice deeper. His smile, still that same boyish smirk, but sharper now. He smelled like cologne and sun. "You look great," he said as he pulled back. I laughed it off. "So do you. You grew up, huh? You have no idea." His eyes lingered a second too long. I brushed it off. But later that night, I couldn't stop thinking about the way he looked at me. Maybe I was imagining it. Maybe it was just flattering because no one had looked at me like that in years, not even my husband. Still, it lit something in me. Something I thought had burned out a long time ago. After dinner, Ethan dragged Jordan upstairs to play whatever game they were obsessed with now. I cleaned the dishes alone. Mark didn't even make it to the table. He texted me he was working late. Again. I stood at the sink, hands submerged in hot water, and stared out the window at nothing. Then I heard him. "You always do everything by yourself?" I turned. Jordan leaned against the kitchen doorway, arms crossed, watching me. I smiled. "I don't mind. You shouldn't have to." There was something in his voice, soft, but firm. It landed hard. He walked over and grabbed a towel. "Here. I'll dry. You don't have to." "I want to." He stood close. Too close. Our arms brushed. I handed him a plate. His fingers grazed mine. I froze. He didn't. His eyes lifted to meet mine. A beat passed. 2. Then he smiled, as if nothing happened, and turned to dry. I stood there, heart racing like I'd run a mile. It was nothing. It had to be nothing. A moment. A flicker. He was just being kind. But my skin still tingled where he touched me. And for the first time in a long, long time, I didn't feel invisible. I tried to shake it off. That moment in the kitchen, his hand brushing mine, the way he looked at me, it had to be innocent. Jordan had always been sweet, helpful. Maybe I was just reading too much into it because I was lonely. But the next morning, it happened again. I came down early. The sun wasn't fully up yet. I was making coffee in my robe when I turned and saw him standing in the hallway. Shirtless. Just loose sweats hanging low on his hips, hair messy, eyes still sleepy. Sorry, he mumbled, rubbing his face. Didn't think anyone was up. It's fine, I said, tightening my robe instinctively. He leaned against the counter and smiled. You always this put together before 7 a.m.? I laughed awkwardly. This is what unraveled looks like. His eyes moved slowly over me. Not leering. Just looking. Appreciating. You look good unraveled, he said. I blinked. It wasn't a joke. He didn't say it like a tease. He said it like a fact. And then took the coffee I handed him, as if he hadn't just crossed a line. But I didn't stop him. Later that afternoon, the boys went out for groceries. Mark was, surprise, not home. I sat alone on the couch, legs curled under me, staring at my phone, rereading messages from months ago just to feel something. That's when Jordan walked in. Alone. They forgot the eggs, he said, tossing a bag on the counter. Ethan went back to get them. Did he leave you behind on purpose? I joked. He didn't answer right away. He walked into the living room instead. Sat on the arm of the chair across from me. Do you ever get bored? I tilted my head. Of what? Of this. Of pretending like you're fine. My heart skipped. Excuse me? He leaned forward, elbows on knees, eyes locked on mine. I've been coming here for years. And I used to think you were just quiet. But you're not. You're sad. I laughed. But it came out wrong. Tight. You think you've got me all figured out? No, he said. But I see you. That line. That simple, devastating line. I see you. God, I wanted that to be true. I wanted someone, anyone, to look at me and see more than just a mom, a wife, a faded thing standing behind the sink or the stove. And somehow, he did. Jordan, I whispered, my voice catching. He stood up. Walked toward me. Stopped just a few feet away. The space between us pulsed. Then I heard the front door. Ethan's voice. Laughter. The moment shattered like glass. Jordan took a breath, stepped back. I'll put the groceries away, he said softly, already walking toward the kitchen. I sat frozen. Not because I was shocked. But because I was afraid of how much I wanted him to stay in that space between us. Things didn't go back to normal after that. Not for me. Every glance from Jordan felt louder. Every silence between us buzzed with something unspoken. I started noticing the way he moved. The way his shirt would cling to his back after a workout. How his voice dropped when he talked to me alone. He was never inappropriate. Never crossed a line in front of Ethan. But when we were alone? He didn't look at me like I was someone's mother. And I didn't look at him like he was just a guest in my home anymore. One evening, the boys were supposed to go out to a movie. Ethan bailed last minute, migraine, and Jordan stayed behind. He offered to help me fix the laundry door that had been sticking for months. You really gonna do handyman work in those? I teased, looking at his white tank top and gym shorts. He grinned. You doubting me? I'm doubting your wardrobe. He crouched down, examining the hinge. I can take it off if it helps you focus. My breath caught. I tried to roll my eyes but couldn't quite mask the laugh that escaped. He looked up at me from the floor, those deep brown eyes playful but steady. I like when you laugh. I looked away. You shouldn't say things like that. Why not? Because, I swallowed. You're my son's best friend. And you're, what? He asked softly. Off limits? I didn't answer. I didn't need to. The air between us thickened. He stood slowly, so close I could feel the heat from his skin. I told myself to move. To say something. To pull away. But I didn't. That night, the power went out. Summer storm. Typical. The whole house fell into a hush, lit only by the flicker of candles. Mark wasn't home, some out-of-town work dinner he didn't invite me to. Ethan was sleeping off his headache upstairs. It was just me and Jordan. Again. We sat at the kitchen table across from each other, the sound of rain tapping against the windows like a ticking clock. "This feels different," he said quietly. "It's just the power," I replied, too quickly. "No," he said, eyes locked on mine. "It's not." I shifted in my seat. "Jordan." He leaned forward. "You don't have to say anything." He hesitated. "You deserve to feel wanted. And I know I shouldn't be the one thinking about you like that. But I do." My heart thudded in my ears. His words were reckless. Dangerous. But honest. And no part of me wanted to stop hearing them. "Jordan, you're young. You think this is what you want, but..." "I'm not a kid, Danielle," he said, his voice low. "And I see the way you look at me when you think I'm not watching." I said nothing. Because he was right. Because I had already crossed the line in my heart. And I wasn't ready to go back. The storm hadn't let up. Rain was falling hard enough to drown out thoughts, which, ironically, was the one mercy of the night. I woke up sometime after midnight. The house was dark except for the soft flicker of candles we'd lit earlier. My robe was slipping off my shoulder, the sheets tangled between my legs. The air felt thick, electric. And then I heard it, footsteps downstairs. I got up, wrapping the robe tighter around me, and padded barefoot to the kitchen. He was there. Jordan. Standing in the glow of candlelight, his back to me, soaked from head to toe. His black t-shirt clung to his body like second skin, his chest rising and falling. He turned at the sound of my footsteps. "I ran to my car to get my charger," he said softly, lifting the damp object in his hand. "Didn't think it'd come down like this." Water dripped from his arms onto the tile. The thunder cracked outside. The silence between us was louder. I should have walked away. Instead, I moved closer, grabbing a dish towel and holding it out. "You're going to catch a cold." He didn't take the towel. He took a step toward me. "I couldn't sleep," he said. I could feel my pulse thudding in my throat. "You should go change. You're dripping. Do you want me to leave?" My hand dropped slowly to my side. "Jordan." He stepped closer. "Just inches away now." His voice lowered to a whisper. "Say it, Danielle. Say you don't want this. Say you haven't thought about me. That you don't feel it, too." I closed my eyes. I tried to conjure Mark's face. Ethan's. The life I was supposed to protect. But all I could feel was the space between us. All I could hear was my own breath, shallow and quick. And all I could see, when I opened my eyes, was him. Standing there. Steady. Unapologetic. "I'm your son's friend," I whispered, more to myself than to him. "And I would never hurt him," he said. "But right now, I'm not thinking about him. I'm thinking about you." I wanted to say no. I did say it. "Stop." But it came out quiet. Hollow. Fragile. He reached out, slowly, giving me every chance to pull away. And I didn't. His fingers grazed my jaw. His thumb traced the corner of my mouth like he was learning me, memorizing the places no one had touched in years. He leaned in. And when his lips touched mine, everything inside me collapsed. It wasn't rushed. It wasn't violent or wild or desperate. It was slow. Reverent. Careful. Like he knew this was forbidden, but still wanted to make it beautiful. He undid the sash of my robe like it was sacred. His mouth trailed down my neck like he was tasting every regret I ever carried. And when his hands slid down my body, I didn't feel ashamed. I felt seen. Desired. Alive. The storm outside raged. The house stayed dark. But inside that kitchen, I burned. And when it was over, when we stood in the soft aftermath of something neither of us could undo, he whispered against my skin. "I've wanted you since I was 18. I didn't respond. Because I wasn't sure which was more terrifying, that he meant it. Or that I had wanted it just as long. I didn't sleep after. Not even for a second. I lay in bed, eyes wide open, heart still racing, his scent still clinging to my skin. My robe was bunched at my waist, the sheets twisted around my legs like vines I couldn't escape. I felt like I was floating above my own body, like this wasn't me. Like I'd stepped into someone else's story, someone messier. Hungrier. Braver. But it was me. And it happened. And now there was no going back. The house was silent when I crept downstairs, hours later. Early light poured through the windows, pale and gray from the storm that had finally passed. He was already in the kitchen. Showered. Calm. A mug of coffee in his hand like nothing had happened. He looked up when he saw me, and that soft, knowing smile pulled at his lips. "Morning," he said. I didn't smile back. Instead, I walked past him to the sink and turned on the water, just to have something to do with my hands. The quiet between us thickened. "You're mad at yourself," he said gently. I didn't respond. "I'm not," he added. "I'm not sorry." I turned around, eyes wide. "You should be." He stepped toward me. Not too close. But enough to let me know he hadn't changed his mind. I meant everything I said, Danielle. Every look, every word, none of it was a mistake. I shook my head, whispering, "He's your best friend. And you're his mother." "I know." He paused. But that didn't stop either of us. I gripped the edge of the counter, feeling the weight of it all settling into my chest. A door opened upstairs, Ethan's. Footsteps creaked overhead. Panic rose in my throat. Jordan stepped back instinctively, like he could read the terror on my face. His voice dropped to a whisper. "I'll go out for a bit. Give us space." I nodded, eyes fixed on the floor. He lingered at the doorway, then turned back. "Don't pretend it didn't mean something." Then he was gone. Ethan came into the kitchen a few minutes later, hair messy, rubbing his eyes. "Morning," he mumbled, reaching for a banana. "Hey, baby," I said, forcing a smile, my voice painfully tight. He looked at me, squinting. "You okay?" I nodded. "Too fast. Just didn't sleep well." He didn't press. But later, when I turned to pour more coffee, I caught him watching me. A flicker of something in his eyes. Curiosity? Suspicion? It passed. Or maybe I just told myself that because the truth was too unbearable to face. That night, after Ethan had gone to bed, my phone lit up. "Jordan. I can't stop thinking about you." I stared at the screen. My thumb hovered over the keyboard. I didn't reply. I couldn't. I deleted the message. But I remembered every word. I went to bed in silence. The space beside me in the bed cold as ever. Mark hadn't come home. Again. The ache in my chest was no longer just about loneliness. It was layered now, with guilt, with need, with shame, and worst of all, with the desperate thrill of having been wanted. I tried to go back to normal. I really did. I cooked dinners. I folded laundry. I smiled when I needed to and made sure my eyes never lingered too long when Jordan was around. I practiced silence like it was survival. But everything felt louder. The clink of silverware at the table. The way Jordan's knee brushed mine under the counter. The way Mark didn't notice I'd cut my hair 3 days ago. The way Ethan kept glancing between me and his friend, brow furrowed. The secret started to rot in my throat. Mark came home for the first time in 2 days. No explanation. No apology. Just the sound of his key in the door, the clatter of his shoes dropping to the floor. He walked straight past me and into his office. I stood in the hallway, invisible all over again. That night, I found myself in the kitchen at midnight, the fridge light spilling out like confession. I wasn't hungry. I was hollow. I didn't hear Jordan come in until I turned and nearly dropped the glass in my hand. "Sorry," he whispered. "Didn't mean to scare you." He was standing there shirtless again, sweat clinging to his skin. He must have gone for a run. Or maybe he knew I'd be here. Maybe I wanted him to. We just stood there. Breathing. "You've been avoiding me," he said. "I have to." He took a step closer. "You don't." I swallowed. My voice was small. "This isn't a game, Jordan. I never thought it was." He stepped closer again. Close enough that I could smell the heat on him. I wanted to touch him. God, I wanted it so badly I felt sick. But then... What the hell is going on? The voice was Ethan's. My son. My blood went cold. He was standing in the doorway, hoodie half-zipped, eyes wide. He looked between us, Jordan's bare chest, my frozen face, the way we stood too close in a too-dark kitchen. I backed up like I'd been burned. "Ethan," I began, but my voice broke. "What is this?" he demanded, but he already knew. His face crumpled, not in rage, but in something worse. Something that made my chest collapse from the inside, betrayal. "Are you serious right now?" he asked Jordan, voice cracking. Jordan looked stunned but didn't speak. "You've been staying in our house. You sit at our table. That's my mom." His voice shattered on the word. I tried to reach for him. "Ethan, please. Don't." He turned and stormed up the stairs, slamming his door so hard the whole house shook. I stood there shaking. Jordan ran a hand through his hair, pacing. "I'll talk to him." "No," I said quickly. "No. Let him breathe. Just leave. Danielle. Go." He hesitated, then grabbed his keys and left. The door clicked shut. And the silence that followed felt permanent. Mark found the message the next morning. One I thought I had deleted. One that said just enough to confirm what he probably suspected deep down all along. I heard him in the office, door open, scrolling. He didn't yell. Didn't ask questions. He came out to a phone in hand, and looked me in the eye for the first time in months. "You're sleeping with him?" I opened my mouth. Closed it. My silence said everything. He stared at me for a long time. His mouth was tight, but his eyes were dead. "I'll have my lawyer call you," he said, and walked away. And just like that, it all collapsed. People like to believe there's always a clean ending. That when you break something, it either gets fixed or it stays broken. But the truth is far messier than that. Sometimes, everything shatters, your marriage, your relationship with your child, your sense of self, and you still have to wake up the next day and make coffee like the walls didn't just fall in around you. I know because I lived it. Ethan moved out within the week. No screaming, no scene. Just a tight, pained silence between us as he packed his things into a duffel bag and walked out without saying goodbye. He hasn't answered my texts since. Mark, for once, acted with shocking efficiency. His lawyer emailed the separation paperwork. No fight. No discussion. Just numbers and clauses and cold formality. I guess it was easier for him to treat it like a business deal than admit the truth, that we'd lost each other long before Jordan ever touched me. And Jordan? He left too. No goodbye. No closure. Just vanished like a fire that had burned itself out. And maybe that's what it was, heat without substance. A flash of light in a pitch-black room I didn't know how to escape. But I'd be lying if I said I didn't miss him. It's quiet now. Deafeningly so. The house feels too big. The bed, too wide. I still make 2 cups of coffee out of habit. I still pause when I hear footsteps in the hallway, forgetting that no one's here. But in the quiet, there's truth. Not just about what I did. But why? I was starving. Not for sex. Not for excitement. Not even for love. I was starving to be seen. To be touched without expectation. To be looked at like I was still here. Still alive. Still a woman, not just a role someone else needed me to play. And for a moment, a single, terrible, beautiful moment, Jordan saw me. Not as Ethan's mom. Not as Mark's wife. As me. Danielle. He touched me like I wasn't broken. Like I wasn't forgotten. Like I mattered. And yes, it was wrong. But it wasn't meaningless. I sit with that now. With the guilt. With the ache. With the honesty no one wants to hear. If you asked me if I regret it, I'd say yes. But if you asked me if I'd do it again, that's harder. Because something in me still whispers yes. And that's the part that scares me the most. So here I am. Alone. No husband. No son. No lover. Just me. And maybe, for the first time in years, that has to be enough.